let's talk about the song and the main riff from the song Rain by Trivium. So, first idea is the fact that Matt Heafy is a great rhythm guitarist, and a lot of his stuff is pretty difficult. Even the stuff on the older albums like Ascendancy when he was younger, that stuff's pretty difficult for anybody that's not an advanced guitarist. So there are concepts and ideas to think about before you start to learn a song or a riff like this. And the first idea is relaxation of that right hand. So when you pick, you want it to be kind of like, you want your hand to be basically loose. And it's just, you kind of let your hand drop and you let the string kind of bounce it back up. You know, and it's about weight distribution. So there's times when maybe you're going to do like a gallop, so you need to let that pick go past the strings. So you just let a little bit more weight down on that hand and then allow it to come back up. But utilize gravity and the bounce of the string as much as possible. So when you pick, it's kind of like the motion of like turning a key in a lock. So if I wasn't actually picking the string, I just have my hand like this. This is kind of what I'm doing right here, is I'm just kind of shaking my hand on the strings. And I can't do that if my hand is not relaxed. If my wrist, if I'm picking from my elbow joint, I can't do that, what I was just doing. This is from the wrist. This is from the elbow. I can't do it. It doesn't work. So the relaxation of that wrist is crucial. You don't want to be tense while you're doing this. Another concept is like actually holding the pick, which when you have your hand loose and relaxed, you have to make sure that you're actually holding on to the pick well, otherwise you're going to lose the pick. It's going to fall or it's going to move and screw you up. So just making sure that you're covering the entire pick with like your thumb on the back side and then your first finger on the front side is generally the way that people do it. There's some situations where like James Hetfield does like the 2-finger thing, which I don't recommend unless that's something that is just really comfortable for you. Some people are different, but generally the best way to do it is going to be the thumb with the first finger covering the entire pick. I have my pick like back on my thumb this direction more. It's kind of sitting back more, and that is kind of more just natural to me because I can have my arm just like straight, my wrist straight like that. That comes naturally to me, so maybe play around with that, see like whereabouts in your hand, like whether it's back more or up more. Just kind of play around with that and see where that pick is most comfortable for you. Ideally, you want it to be perpendicular with your hand, so like if you have your hand up like this, the point of the pick is facing the ground like that, so that you can have your wrist straight like this when you're picking, and you're not like angled like this or in some weird angle or weird like motion or holding your hand weird to where it's uncomfortable. You want it to be comfortable. You want it to just be natural. So like, how do you naturally just grab a pick and hold it? So with that being said, I don't know if I talked about the fist part. Some people like to have a fist, and when you're playing riffs like this, first of all, it adds to the tension. When you're holding your fist like that, generally you're tenser than if you just have your fingers like loose and relaxed, straight out. It kind of gets in the way of being able to maneuver this pick and angle it in the way that you want. And most of like Trivium style riffs, specifically this Rain riff, the way that Matt Heafy picks is he doesn't pick like with his pick straight like this. He has it angled like down and then slightly to the left, so he's kind of he's picking on this edge. I don't know. Let me see if I can get a better pick that you can see a little bit better. This is, you don't want your pick to be like this because there's going to be a lot of friction with this, like the pick straight up and down like this, and the pick just basically just straight. So a down angle like this and slightly to the left is going to add, it's going to take away a lot of that friction. And then depending on how tightly you're holding your pick, that's going to take away more of the friction. So you kind of want, like when you're picking, you want this kind of sound, just like a very light scraping sound. And then, so just keep that in mind and play around with that, because there is, like, you do want a little bit of tension, and the more tension you have, the more aggressive the riff's going to sound. So there's times when you want your riff to sound more aggressive, but you definitely want to minimize the tension, because that's going to allow you to play longer and faster and not get as tired. So let's look at the riff. So when I first learn a riff, I generally just try to play it all the way through. If I can, sometimes I can. A lot of the times I can't. And then I kind of see where I'm struggling, like what transitions, what notes are difficult for me, where am I struggling at? And then I go back and I just basically drill into the riff and I learn it section for section. So this riff here starts out with that very common trivium, which Matt Heafy, like that trivium strumming pattern or picking pattern, which Matt Heafy calls down, 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 up, down. In this situation, though, I would say up, down, down, up, down is better, just because you're starting on that A string and then moving to the E string, so that's an up motion. So if you pick up, then you're already pretty much there, ready to pick on that E string, or I guess it's a D because it's drop D right now, but you know what I mean. So practicing that, whether you want to do it like Matt Heafy does it, whether it's down, 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 or up, down, down, up, down. Or you can decide which one's easier for you, which one you'd rather do. As long as you have a strong enough up pick, you're not going to tell the difference between that one single note picked. There is a difference between like alternate picking and down picking, but with a single note, generally you can get that same sound with just a single up pick. So practice that a bunch of times until you get it to where it's like 90% speed before you move on. And then the next section of the song is just adding in the 6/3 right after that down, 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 up, down section. So I would add that in and practice that. Maybe have a pause in between. And the reason why I say have a pause is because if you practice something like that over a bunch of times, you get familiar with what comes next, and you don't want to. And then it'll take a time to get used to like adding the next part in. It's gonna screw you up. So if you generally practice, or even you could even do 2 of those, down, down, up, down, down, and then pause, and then add in that 6/3. pause. And then the next section is the that open string palm muted rhythm, which it's basically just gallop with like an 8th note in between, I believe. So it starts with 2 8 notes, and then it hits a gallop, and then an 8th note, and a gallop, and an 8th note. So I like to be able to play everything slow if I can play it fast. It's kind of a general rule of thumb for me. It's like if you can play it fast, you should be able to play it slow. A lot of the times I'll hear a rhythm like that and I'll just play it for what it sounds like at 206 beats per minute or whatever that song's at. And then you slow it down, you realize you're not actually playing it exactly the way it is. So I like to slow things down first and kind of understand them for what they are and then speed it up. And then after that, it does that same part over with the down, down, up, down, down, but then it goes into that octave section. So you kind of understand the first part of that. Just get those octaves down. So if you have the down, down, up, down, down, and then all you have to do is add those octaves in. And I practice every single little section of these riffs like this until I get them. And then I connect them and put them together. So I guess the next part would be connecting those 3 sections that we just practiced. Maybe the down, down, up, down, down was the difficult part for you, and going into that little octave slide wasn't hard, so you already have that down now that you have the down, down, up, down, down. So just connect them all. And I believe it just does the first part again. And then the last time, after that octave slide, we go into the... So I recommend practicing that octave run at the end to where it's second nature. You don't have to think about it. And then connecting that part. And then putting the whole riff together. At that point, that's pretty much the whole thing. And you have it. So if you practice all those sections separately and get them down before you try to play the entire riff, then it's going to be really easy to play it fast, up to speed when you're ready to put it all together. I think the biggest takeaway here is going to be the relaxation, having your fingers straight out, unless, you know, maybe you can figure out how to make it work with that pick angle with the fist, but I tried it and my fingers hit the strings when I try to do that angle, so I just don't think it's possible. So if you want to minimize that friction, which you definitely want to do, then you can't really have that fist. Unfortunately, you can't have that fist. But then that pick angle is very important. So I want to get a shot on the camera of how I'm picking this so you can kind of see what the angle looks like a little bit better. Again, it's basically just like, it's hard because I can't have my hand out like I want to because it gets in the way, but it's basically just, instead of flat straight like this, angled down and to the left, and then that gives you that. Because if I have my pick straight, you can totally tell the difference there. I think I can hear it. So much more friction going on there. Try that and see what you think, and then try that down angle, and then slightly left too. And then if you let off the pick a little bit, you know, to where it's not going to fall out, but you let off the grip of the pick a little bit, that's even less friction, which a lot of the times when you're playing like chords and stuff, it's better to have a little bit less friction there. But playing a riff like that, you probably want to have the pick, you want to hold on to the pick pretty good.